Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Deaths, back with another Kamihime project video. Sorry for seeming a little bit loud in there. Again, my room is pretty hot, so I gotta have fans running on. But anyways, this next event is going to be a Labyrinth event, and it is light based, so darkness is going to have the advantage. And if you are trying to debuff, your best chances is with a dark team, your worst chances is with a light team. So keep that in mind. Also, with every Labyrinth event, it is kind of like an advent, but at the same time, sort of works a bit like a union event. It's like a mix of a few things, really. But we'll go over that later on in the video. But first and foremost, there's something that pops up right here where it says, "Are snatches and Anzus effective?" They are not. You do not increase the drop rate, so you have to keep that in mind. So considering the fact that when you win a fight, it automatically like picks amount of chests to drop at random. It does not work the same way as if you're in battle. So that means you are not going to get any boost from Anzu, Snatch, drop rate increases, none of that. If you want a higher drop rate, you play on Ultimate. That's the only way you can do it. But anyways, speaking of which, the deal with Labyrinth, regardless of which one you pick, it is going to be the same AP cost. Standard is just easier enemies to deal with, but you have a much higher drop rate on Ultimate, so keep that in mind. You will have to do more runs if you stick to Standard, so if you actually can handle Ultimate enemies, and do so, because it is much, much better to go to Ultimate. With enough of an Ultimate run, you can actually get you should be able to get most, if not all, of the list done by the time you reach the highest floor in Ultimate. However, those that can reach the highest floor in Ultimate generally are able to solo Ultimate catastrophe raids, because enemies start getting a lot of HP like that, like Guild Order level and stuff like that. So that said, you may want to try Ultimate if you can handle Ragnarok Advent content. So keep that in mind. Now, last thing I need to mention is the fact that there are range weapons in every single labyrinth. Two of them, in fact. A range is never good. They are never good. It doesn't matter if they have assault. They do not final break. They are just generally not good. Period. The weapon you do want to get is the one that can final break. These are never assault. I mean, these are never ranged weapons. They usually have assault, but it depends. So if you are going to keep any SSR weapons, do not keep the arranged ones. They give some temporary buffs to only just one character. It is not worth. But anyways, I'm not going to go over exact details on how much HP each enemy has, but just know that they are listed between ranks. So the rank 1s are easier than the rank 2s, and the rank 2s are easier than the rank 3s. The rank 3s tend to be bosses, the rank 2s tend to be mid bosses, so you gotta keep that in mind. If you find a carbuncle, that is pretty much a free for, because they start off with 2000 HP and never increase it, even on the higher difficulties. So there's that. When you get into the Labyrinth enough, you will in fact come across its version of Skill Cone. You cannot beat this guy without some insanely cheap tactics. He has a billion HP and he does 1 million to each Hime per hit, provided you have no damage cut. You are not meant to beat the guy. You can beat the guy if you have some method of auto-reviving and it can last the entire fight, but you are not meant to beat Skill Cone, period, point blank. You don't even get anything for beating him, so keep that in mind. It is literally just bragging rights, if anything. Me personally, I do not have the Kamihime in order to take him on, so that is not going to happen. And I've already shown videos and images of what happens when you fight the guy, so keep that in mind. Now, with ultimate difficulty, everybody's just stronger except for Skeleton. Of course, he's just stuck being that strong. So they pretty much all just bump up 2 ranks. However, keep in mind that their HP, it starts off higher than how it would be in standard and just skyrockets more. Generally, when you start getting to the higher levels, like the higher lap counts, the bosses can start going into tens of millions of HP, so you have to keep that in mind. So remember that they will start getting quite a lot of HP. Something to really keep your mind on. And also, it goes without saying too, if you have a soul that does AoE damage, then they are going to be a great help. The ones that quickly come to mind is Solomon and Medea. So, there's those. Now, when it comes to the list of rewards, there is a lot of them, but I'm going to go over the ones that are noteworthy, so keep that in mind. Starting with the Ssr weapon that probably would be the best one to keep. It gives medium rush and small strength when you final break limit it. Even if you don't get it the final break limit, it is still going to be a small assault. But you do want to final break it if you are planning on using any of the Labyrinth weapons, period, point blank. And this one is kind of interesting. You could do equip it on your soul. It's because it's going to give your first 3 characters an attack buff and your last 2 a defense buff. So that's something to know if you somehow don't have a soul weapon. But anyways, the main reason you get this is to final break it for its assault and defender. Rush is so-so, but it's not really necessary. However, this is still the best weapon of the 3, considering the fact that the other 2 have a range effect, so they're not worth. If you're going to keep any of the Labyrinth weapons, the glaive is the one to go for. Now, I do have to note some of the stuff that it's fairly common, but they give you a lot of it here. So I do have to note that they will drop a ton of EXP spears, as well as a ton of gems. In fact, you can even go back in after you completed the list and get even more gems, because everything practically turns to gems at that point. They drop a decent number of grails to upgrade your stuff. You can get both versions of soul points here. Holy and, well, it's not holy anymore, it's called special. But special and the regular soul points. You can get a bunch of them here too. So that's something to know. Also, other noteworthy things that need to be mentioned. You can get 3,000 magic jewels, up to that much. You can get fangs. I am mentioning fangs because of the fact that they are pretty hard to grind now. SP quests may or may not drop that many fangs. It depends on how much luck you have and how much item drop rate you bring with you. Even then, the way the chest system works, you're upping the chances of gold chests, but not the chances they'll give you fangs anyways. So, that's something to know. They give you 20 fangs for doing this, and Labyrinth is not really all that hard, so enjoy it. You get Dragonic Eye Shards, so keep that in mind as well. You also get lots of books to break limit your Kamihime. The gold ones are also used to break limit weapons to final break, which I think includes the Labyrinth weapon as well. And all those books are also used in 4th tier souls, so keep that in mind. You get a special gacha ticket that gives a 10 draw, but from what I heard, it expires after a while, so you may or may not want to use it. There's also other gacha tickets in here too, so keep that in mind. And of course the Ssr weapons, which are probably going to be in a platinum chest. So remember that as well. But you can get a lot of stuff from this. It is definitely worth grinding regardless of how strong you are. In fact, if you are not strong enough to take on Guild Order, this is one of the few times you can actually get Ori Childcom. So you may want to get that Ori. So basically, what you do for the Labyrinth is just keep grinding. If you can't get too far on Ultimate, just play the last 10 floors on it. that you've reached, or just go farm standard. Because Ultimate is actually a little bit more difficult than you think, because of the fact that one major thing with Labyrinth is the fact that your items carry over, your lost health carries over, and your dead characters carry over. Everything else resets at the beginning of the fight. That means your burst gauge, that means your abilities and their cooldowns, that means your buffs and your debuffs. The only things that carry over between fights is your health and your restoring items. That is pretty much it. So if somebody's completely out of HP, they're just gone until you leave the Labyrinth or revive them somehow. So that said, a good suggestion if you are not going for a more damage-based output, bring a healer. If you don't have an SSR healer, just go get Andromeda. So there's that. Because again, HP increases the further you go in, and it can start getting pretty high. Even with standard, it can start climbing quite a bit, if you want to be honest, because standard can get up to 4,100. And by then, an enemy's got almost 1,000,000 HP if they're a boss. So you got to keep that in mind. And I have played it before myself the last time with Medea. She will not be able to one-shot everything after a certain point, so you will indeed need the other Kamihime to be able to do some damage or bring out some abilities or whatnot. There will be a point where she's not able to one-shot some stuff, which will end up being the bosses and mid-bosses once they get strong enough. So you got to keep that in mind. But anyways, that's all for this. More of this is going to come soon, but I'll do it like the last video where I'll probably start recording near the end of the Labyrinth. Hopefully we do not have any issues or glitches, so it doesn't look weird, because my characters were disappearing the last time, basically. And I'm just slowly going over each of these HP values. Keep in mind that aside from the carbuncles, everything of that rarity, that enemy rarity, has the same HP values. So keep that in mind. All the bosses have the same HP. All the mid bosses have the same HP. All the normal enemies have the same HP. So they follow the same HP formulas. It's just that bosses will climb faster than mid bosses, and mid bosses will climb HP faster than normal enemies. But among each other, it's pretty much the same. So for instance, you might find Nandi, and you might find the White and Andromeda Lias. They both have the same HP. If you happen to go back on the floor and refight them, you will see that they have the same HP. But anyways, that's all for this. There's way too much like enemy patterns and all that to really go over, so that's why I didn't. I'm sorry about that. Just pause the video if you wanted to see any of the attacks and data, because this is translated from Google Translate, but it's still enough to really get an idea. So keep that in mind. And I did try to slowly go over things again a second time, just so you can actually see all this data on screen. Just pause it and read it if you really want to. But anyways, that's all for this. More of this is going to come soon. And again, if you are trying to take on either version of Skill Cone, he will instantly try to kill you. So you will need revives, and you will need a method to be able to do it every single turn. Otherwise, you're probably not beating the guy. Also, enjoy it while it lasts, because they do eventually patch that out. So keep that in mind. One later patch, you'll end up gaining less burst gauge upon getting hit, which pretty much nullifies the auto revives and so on. But anyways, again, do not worry about Skill Cone. He is just bragging rights if you happen to beat him, and you're not really meant to beat him anyways. But that's all for now, guys. More of this will come soon, and take care.